Hello everyone and welcome to episode 22 of Suplexes and Microphones. I'm Joe, this is Nate, and sitting between us is the Savannah Evans. Savannah, this has been a long time coming, and we talked to you several times about trying to set this up, and one of the things we're going to get into is the fact that how women are booked, how female wrestlers are booked, particularly in the Southeast, is difficult to catch up with you guys sometimes, aside from maybe Queens of Combat and things like that. But we're going to get into that a little bit more, but we're really glad to have you on the show. And I want to say a special thank you to Julian Velasquez and Augusta Minicon for setting this up and allowing us to be here.
Yeah.
And with that, turn it over to Nate.
All right. So Savannah, again, thanks for your time, and I know it's kind of rushed to get here this morning. You got the show later on, but
I want to say thank you to you guys. I'm glad I was able to do this, and like you said, it was a few tries and we finally got it.
Yes.
So I'm excited.
Happy.
You're our first female wrestler, by the way. We've had on the show. We've had Amber Young on here, as more of a manager role with Anthony Henry. So nice to have you on here. So tell us a little bit, starting out, just how you got into wrestling, as far as being a fan goes, and at what point did you kind of transition into saying, this is something that I can actually do what I want to do, kind of thing.
Well, starting out being a fan of wrestling, in my opinion, I feel like I got started watching later than most people, because I feel like most people start watching wrestling when they're kids, 5, 6, 7. My dad, when I was younger, always tried to sit me down and watch wrestling with me, and I was never super interested. It was always WCW stuff. And one day we were at my grandparents' house, and my grandfather was watching WWF, and I sat down and watched with him. My uncles were around, and my dad was there. I was like, "Oh, what are they doing?" I sat down and I watched it, and it intrigued me for longer than just the second that I normally would sit down and watch it. So it made me want to be like, well, "What's happening next week? What's going on?" So slowly I kind of caught on. I was maybe 12. This was maybe late 97, early 98. So I just dated myself real bad there, but.
I'm much older than that, so
Yeah, don't worry about
that. So it was just, I saw The Rock and what he was doing, and as charismatic as he is, he made me want to tune in and see, what is The Rock doing next? Because he's always got something crazy going on. Yeah. That's just kind of how I started.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about training. I know you mentioned in your Facebook bio, it mentions George South and Caleb Conley. Some of those guys, Cedric Alexander, Jake Manning. So talk a little bit about that, how you got into the training process.
Yeah, so I was actually, so I graduated high school in Colorado. We were living in Colorado at the time. And then my family moved back to Charlotte, where I'm originally from. And I was just like, man, I want to train, I want to be a wrestler, because once you start watching, you kind of hit a point where you're like, hey, I want to try this. And a part of me was like, well, I really can't do this, but can I? I didn't know it was a possible thing. I didn't know there were schools until I started looking into it. And I heard about the High Spots Training School. I heard about PWX. I started going to PWX shows. And then I told myself, I really want to train. My parents were really for finish college first. And college was, it was like a roller coaster for me. It took me a hot minute to get through it, and I finally did. And still in my head was like, I want to try wrestling. So I finally did. I came and watched a class at High Spots, one of George's classes, and they were like, watch, make sure it's what you want to do, and then you can sign up. So that's exactly what I did. I watched 1 week. I didn't start the very next week, but I started the week after that, and Cedric and a couple of guys were like, well, I thought you were going to start last week. I'm like, no, I'm starting this week. Okay, we thought you flaked out on us. And I was like, no. So yeah, I started with High Spots Training School. Of course, the head trainer there is George South. He does Tuesdays, and of course Wednesdays, Caleb Conley. At the time, they didn't have Thursdays when I first started, so it was just the 2 nights a week. And then later, a lot of people were pushing to have a third class, and Cedric was like, Michael's fine with it. I could do a Thursday class, and so he started with us Thursday. Maybe it was about a year before he got picked up by WWE. So now Jake Manning, Man Scout Jake Manning, does Thursdays for us, and just a vast range of different takes on wrestling and different ways to go about it, all in that one school. So it's awesome being there. I love it.
They cover promotions as well, as far as you're working your promos, your talking skills in the ring.
Yeah, so actually Jake covers promos and character. Michael wanted to make sure that we do have a range of different things that we're covering. George, of course, goes through basics. Caleb is really specific about conditioning and ring shape, and he has certain drills that he'll go through with you. You know, we'll do like matches and stuff like that. And then Jake really wants, like, he has his drills too, but he really like focuses on promos every training class and getting character into everything that you do. So like all of that like combined, I think is perfect.
And I'm sure it's very physically demanding to go through all the training and everything. So was there ever a point in the beginning like, I don't know if I really want to do this, or were you kind of, sticking with it, or what's some of the thoughts that went on during that?
Yeah, like I knew it was gonna be tough. Like my first week, it just kind of like opened my eyes. Like, okay, this is what I'm in for. I think the first month, like I would be like driving my car, like I put my seatbelt on in my car, and I have to turn my whole body because my neck was just, it was not there for a little bit. Like, but obviously your body adjusts to that, and you listen to your body and stuff like that. Maybe a year or two into training, like some of my joints were flaring up, and I was like, well, is this normal? Is this just like an injury or something? And finally, like it got so bad, like I couldn't do push-ups anymore, and I went to get it checked out. And they're like, yeah, you have rheumatoid arthritis. And I was like, oh my god. So that on top of what I'm already doing in training, like it was killing me. So finally, I kind of got that under control. But yeah, it's definitely like tough all the time, and like people go to Caleb's class and they throw up, and it's just, it's a good time, but you definitely have to have some grasp of this is going to be difficult, you know what I mean? Like I know this is not going to be easy, so.
So tell a little about characters. I know you have to kind of like a character or gimmick. With weekly television, they have the fans have the advantage of saying, okay, this is this character, this is what they do. And then do wrestling. Usually the audience, that's their first time seeing you. So you have to tell within the first couple of seconds, like if you're good or bad, do a high five them or not, kind of a thing. So tell a little bit some of your characters you've done, kind of gimmicks in the past, or anything like that.
When I first started, my character was just like, hey, I'm happy to be here. I really didn't have a good concept or a good grasp of like baby face. Like I thought it had to be like over the top, like rah, and I didn't feel that like inside of me, but it was just my introduction to working in front of a crowd and working in front of people, having them play off of what I'm doing in the ring. So that, I don't know, that was a while, and then I realized like I don't feel this, like this is not who I am, and now my character is more just like not necessarily I'm gonna be like a babyface or a heel. It's more like I'm just gonna do my thing, and how the crowd reacts and how they react. But I myself feel, more comfortable just trying to be like a badass, So that's currently what I'm doing. And then I developed the Cannibal moniker from, originally we were a trio in Queens of Combat. It was, excuse me, myself, Errol Monroe, and Devin Nicole King. We were Sexy Young Caramels. And so our initials were SYC. And we maybe were together for like a year and a half. We eventually ended up, they split us, and so I still wanted to use the initials SICK, essentially SYC. So I was like, what if I'm the Sexy Young Cannibal? Because I'll just eat you alive. Like, it's hard to escape me. So I went with that, and then now I just kind of shortened it to the Cannibal, and it's just basically just like a badass.
Okay.
Like do whatever I want.
You definitely come across like very strong and confident when you come out to the rings. That's I like that. So let's talk a little bit about just where we've seen you. Joe saw you in the first ever female PCW match, you versus Jesse Jordan. You want to talk about that a little bit, Joe?
Yeah, so I was there for that, and it was one of those times like, I got to get you on the show, Savannah. That was their first ever all-ladies match, and one of the things we're going to talk about is how difficult it is for you to get booked, and what you've been doing lately to ensure you get booked. For example, just a week ago, King of Bushido, you had an intergender match. Well, you actually had two because you beat Matt Sells.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about the difficulties as a female worker, and about the intergender thing, how essentially you're like, hey, I'll fight anybody.
So where does it start? I think we have to go back a little bit. South Carolina, they're very strict about the wrestling promotions there, and you have to have a license as a professional wrestler. and a lot of girls do not take the time to get licensed in South Carolina, so therefore they can't be booked in South Carolina. And so there's already like a small pool from there for promoters to book.
Right.
And that's its own like difficulty in its own, but I'm always down. I always have my South Carolina license, and I have wrestled there the past few years, and I get it every year. So there was a point where promoters weren't finding girls that were available that had their licenses, but I was always down to wrestle all the time in South Carolina because it's so close. I'm in North Carolina.
Right.
So then, yeah, I was just like, PCW was great because Jessie Jordan, she is local and she did have her license.
Right.
So when they approached me for that match, I was like, yes, I'm so down for this. I had never wrestled her before. I'd been on the show with her before. You know, I liked her look, and she came off very great. I was able to see like a little bit of her match on that show, so I was excited to wrestle her at PCW. It was great. I had a good time, and like the crowd was super hyped to have like a women's match because they had never had one at PCW before, and I just remember that feeling was great. But again, I think that was the first time that year I had wrestled in South Carolina because no girls were licensed.
Right.
And I just kept putting it over like, you guys, I don't have to wrestle girls, I can wrestle guys. And, you know, depending on what your promotions, because some promotions are not down for that, you know, and I completely understand that, I respect that, it's fine. There came a show it was Pro Wrestling Turbo. I was set to wrestle Jessie again, but she ended up having car troubles, and she's all the way on the coast, so that is quite a haul for you, you know, without an arrangement with your car situation. So they looked around and they were like, well, what are we gonna do? We have Savannah advertised, but she's here, Jessie's not here. So they had me wrestle one of their guys, his name was Jackson Sane. And I think that was one of my, outside of wrestling the guys at high spots, like even on shows, it was one of the first guys I had wrestled like in the area. And it was really cool. The crowd reacted to that super well. Like his creepy, scary character was great. They had him come out. He cut this promo about, you know, I'll challenge anybody. Of course, I'll fight anybody. So I took him on the challenge, and he's like, you know, women can't wrestle, blah blah blah. You shouldn't be in here. So that built up already like a base for us to work on, and the crowd fed off of it. It was great. And like I said, I have no problem wrestling guys. So then last week I wrestled Matt Sells in round 1 in the Bushido tournament. And went on to wrestle Tracer X second round. He knocked me out of the tournament, but it was great because again the crowd reacts a certain way to intergender wrestling, and I think we don't have a ton of that in the South per se. It's super big in the Midwest and then now up north. But I think it's a great opportunity to wrestle these guys, and it makes me grow as a performer, and I get to learn different things. And because just the week before that, I wrestled James Drake in South Carolina.
Chester, right?
Yes, at ABW Chester, and that was huge for me because I always wanted to work with him, and then I was able to, and I was excited. Everyone's like, "What about those chops?" I was like, "I don't care." like I'm just gonna do this. Oh, it was so much fun. I was super happy to be able to do that. I don't even know if that answered any of your questions. I think I just rambled a little bit.
No, you know, there's for you, there's been a lot of bad luck though. We were at a viral show a year ago maybe, and your opponent had car trouble or something again.
Yeah.
And they brought in Kira, who just happened to be there, Kira Hogan, and basically y'all had a little brawl for a minute because she didn't have her gear. She wasn't planning on being on the show. It's not her fault. But you know, and then you had to wrestle Jackson Sane because your opponent didn't show up. But again, your ability to wrestle guys, girls, whoever, that's what makes you stand out as well. And I know that you're certainly willing to wrestle anybody.
Yeah. For sure. So I do have a question about that. Now, I'm trying to think of the nicest way to say this and not come across as a jerk as possible or insensitive, but I'm very much old school.
Yes.
And I was not so much as wrestling, but also just in life, like raised a Southern gentleman, shouldn't hit a woman, that kind of thing. So I kind of struggle with the intergender wrestling a little bit, I'll be honest with you. Not that I'm going to get up and walk out or anything, but some of the believability, like I know Tessa Blanchard and Brian Cage had some phenomenal matches together. But still, it's one of those things like, as good a shape as she's in, he's still this big monster. And in reality, you know, who would win out of that? Kind of a thing. So again, not putting it down, I have a lot of respect for you, what
Right.
you do, but what would you say to an old school fan like me that to try to convince them to kind of give it a chance?
Yeah, and I actually did want to touch on that too, because as I mentioned a minute ago, like there's not a lot of intergender wrestling in the South. There is, but it's not as big as in the Midwest, where I get it's more acceptable out there, and they love their intergender wrestling. In the South, it is very much so. Yeah, you know, you don't hit a woman, and this, you know, does this mirror like real life, and like, how do you feel about that? I think to a certain level, intergender wrestling, it can be for everyone if you look at it in a certain light, from like a fan point of view. Because, you know, obviously there are certain size differences that you are going to be more, I guess, believable than others, and different situations. But I love the approach that me and Tracer had in our match, where you know, he was hesitant about wrestling me, and you know, I gave him one shot, and he was like, whoa, like you just hit me. I don't know how I feel about hitting you back. He called his mom on the phone, put her on the microphone. I was like, Mom, like she just, you know, she hit me. He's like, you know, can I hit her back? And she's like, whoa, you cannot hit her back. Like, don't you dare hit her back. I'll whip your ass. And I was like, oh.
That was a cool moment.
Yeah, it was. And we spent a lot of the match like wrestling more than striking. Because certainly kids in the audience, some parents don't want their kids, you know, seeing a woman get hit. Especially, you know, like in the face, like that's a weird, touchy thing for some people. So we wrestled around, and a lot of people were more accepting to the actual wrestling aspect rather than we're brawling back and forth. And like you said, there's matches like Brian Cage and Tessa Blanchard where they're both just going at it, both of them. And, you know, he is a larger man, and, you know, special, you know, definitely props to him to be respectful of the fact that he wanted to show that she could, you know, that she's powerful too, and even though she's smaller. And I think a lot of guys are not as open to that in wrestling, like showing that type of thing. But I definitely, like, especially when I wrestle James Drake, I want to be very respectful of the fact that he's built this huge legacy for himself, and, you know, I just didn't want to get in the way of that. You know, I wanted to respect that fully.
That's a good answer. Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. So thank you. So let's talk about. We usually don't talk current events very much because we like to lead these interviews to what I refer to as evergreen, where you can pick this up again a year from now and look at it, and it's still relevant. So, but I understand last night you joined the syndicate, PWX, and I'm a big fan of those guys. So I just have to touch on that. I've always liked the factions. I've always been a fan of the factions and managers in general. I always liked the Dangerous Alliance because they had Medusa in there, Polly Dangerous. So they had tag teams, they had singles wrestlers, they had female wrestler. They just covered everything. Like Sanity in NXT, when they were in NXT, it was like they had a tag team, they had a singles wrestler, and they had a female. So that's really like that they have, you know, inclusive of every group, you know, every division within the wrestling there. So tell us about being part of Syndicate. How's that?
Well, I felt like it was a natural fit. Elijah Evans, my cousin.
Okay.
So the Evanses, well, you know.
Oh, I see.
Cousin.
Like, okay. I get it. I never made that connection.
Yeah, so you know, we played up on that, and I came out during the main event, Ethan versus Elijah. It cost Ethan his title match, basically. The crowd erupted, and I got a "You Sold Out" chant, and so I came out. I came out disguised. The crowd assumed, oh, it's just like all the syndicate had been banned from ringside. I'm sneaking out. They assume, oh, this is Jason Cade, like trying to insert himself in this match. And I try to get in the ring. Ethan pulls the hoodie off me. I pull the bandana off my face. Oh, it's not Jason Cade, it's Savannah Evans. And there was a little kid from her that was like, no! Like, oh my gosh. But yeah, no, I like a lot. I like all those guys. Like, I'm super excited about, you know, the things that we're gonna do, and glad to be a part of the group for sure.
That's awesome. You think they'll afford you more opportunities, like Tommy Thomas with your at ringside, the guys, you know, bring your matches possibly, and
yes, and I love Tommy. Is like such a good manager. Like I think he takes the time to think about the little things that other people don't in wrestling, as far as, you know, making sure his clients do look like monsters, like, you know, even if it's just like a photo, like a waist up photo, and he's kind of like making himself look smaller so that they look bigger, just
Smart.
small things like that.
Right.
So I can't wait to work with those guys.
So I've watched some of your videos. I hadn't actually seen you wrestle live in person, except for the Kiera Hogan. But that was like a short kind of fight skirmish. So I looked up some videos, and let's talk about some of your moves. I guess your finisher and the moves I see was like a swinging leg DDT.
Mm-hmm.
What was your influence on that? That looks pretty intense.
Snap DDT.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got that from Lita. I loved Lita when I was younger. She was very like different than the other girls they had on TV at the time, and she got in the ring with the guys and like, you know, was doing all this lucha stuff with them, which also like on American television you hadn't seen women doing like lucha things in the ring. And, you know, I just thought that was cool. She was like a tomboy. Like when I was younger, I was a tomboy. So I definitely wanted to include something of hers, like in what I do. And then, you know, I was doing it and training a lot, and Jake encouraged it. He's like, yeah, it looks really vicious.
Good.
So, you know, keep doing that. And I love doing it. I definitely, especially people that, you know, are down for taking it like really solidly. So.
So you do that like a fisherman suplex as a finish also?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually, one of my other trainers, Caleb Conley, encouraged that one. He's like, well, have you thought about a fisherman suplex? I was like, no, I've never done one before. So he showed me, and then I got it down pretty quickly, and I like doing it. So I feel like this year I haven't used it as much as in the past, but I love hitting it, so I bring it back.
You beat Matt Sills with it last week.
I did, yes, and that was, I think, the first time I had hit it in, well, no, because I hit it on James Drake. I just know earlier in the year.
You hit that on James Drake?
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
This is why she's right here right now.
It was not the
Love it.
prettiest perfect plex. Like, I pride myself on, like, my form on my perfect plex. It was not the prettiest perfect plex, but we you know, I pulled it off. Yeah.
So you mentioned Lita, now you mentioned Kurt Hennig. Who were some of your influences when you were watching wrestling when you were younger?
Oh, younger, for sure. The Rock, as I already talked about.
Okay.
Lita, again, like, I loved her. And here's like maybe an obscure one. Like, I loved Ken Shamrock when I was a kid. Yes, legit. I think that's why, like, he brought that legitimacy from UFC, which, you know, was much smaller of a company back then. He brought that legitimacy of MMA to WWE, and so I liked, you know, his matches. You know, they weren't always like the crispest things ever, but like you said, like legit, like badass, like that.
Yeah.
That was a guy that was gonna mess you up.
Right.
Yeah. Those three, I loved, like, a lot of the factions too, like Edge and Christian, or like the Hardy Boys, like the stuff they were doing with the Dudleys, like the TLC matches, like that was crazy stuff. And then when I first started, like, the Nation was doing this. I just liked a lot of the characters and how they all mixed with each other. But definitely Rock, Lita were top. They were top on my list. And I also wasn't really super into watching WCW when I was younger, so it was always WWF. And like I said, a lot of those characters were just like super awesome for me. Like Eddie Guerrero, also loved him. Like everything that he did, him and Kurt was always great, and so I enjoy their matches.
Okay. And who's some of your current favorites, like a WWE, Ring of Honor, Impact, any of those?
Yes, so I love Kevin Owens.
He's got a good look about him. You know.
So I think I didn't start like realizing there was independent wrestling, like local wrestling you could watch, maybe until like 2012. I think I saw him for the first time one of those years, Ring of Honor, and then I didn't see him live until he was at PWX. I think he was wrestling Cedric. Maybe Caleb, actually, now that I think about it. But I was just like, oh my God, like this guy, like he's a badass, and he moves the way a person his size shouldn't, like James Drake.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, like, and then he says whatever he wants to.
He's so good on the mic.
Yes, and he wasn't like generic bad guy, but also like, yeah, like on the mic, just so great. And so like he's someone that I like still love to watch wrestle. Like he's awesome. Obviously, I don't need to keep saying that, but so great. One of my favorites just of all time. And of course, like the guys that I train with, I love watching them work too, because I think I know like the background behind all of it, like what they've gone through to get where they are. Obviously, like, you know, Jake, Caleb, Cedric, like I love all those guys. Like watching them wrestle, and I don't know, just getting their take on everything is great too.
So we're talking about high spots a good bit. So tell us a little bit about what you do between weekends. What's your shoot job?
So my shoot job in between wrestling on the weekends, I work at High Spots at the warehouse. So I'm always surrounded by wrestling. People used to ask me all the time, like, do you ever get like tired of it because you're around all the time? No. The answer is no. So Monday through most Thursdays and sometimes Fridays, I work at the warehouse. Caleb taught me how to sew, so I help him like make knee pads, turnbuckle pads, that kind of thing. We were started out making ring skirts, but now we outsource that. So just whatever in the warehouse needs to be done, like I kind of do that. I make t-shirts too. So if anyone ever orders any t-shirts from High Spots, I probably made it. Like a non-WWE shirt, obviously. So that's always cool. You know, people are always coming in and out of the warehouse. It's not open to the public. I mean, just like,
I was about to ask you that.
Yeah, just like wrestlers coming in to get stuff, or to arrange to have shirts made, or, you know, doing signings and stuff. You know, we had a private signing with the Elite last year. I think they filmed it and eventually put it out on High Spots Wrestling Network, $9.99 a month. Also, the Women's Wrestling Network. Do not forget about the ladies. Also $9.99 a month. Queens of Combat on there, WSU, a bunch of content. That's my cheap plug.
That's good. We'll get those in at the end too.
Yes.
We like the plug. So, on to another fan question we have. We try to get this one in every episode. So you wrestled Tracer Rex last weekend.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw it at his table or not. Usually he has it. He had a gift one time given to him. Was it Christmas or something?
Yeah.
The phone number it had made a Frosted Flakes box with him on it.
Yes.
It's kind of cool. Like, it's kind of throwback to the Wheaties boxes at the athletes. So if you were on a cereal box, what would it be?
Oh man, I don't eat a lot of cereal nowadays. Maybe like 5-6 years ago, it probably would have been Raisin Bran Crunch.
Okay.
Which I don't know how people. I know a lot of people don't like Raisin Bran, but I feel like the crunch adds like a fun thing in there. So I don't know. I feel like it'd be a good one. I don't know how they set that up.
Would the son still be doing the scoops, or would you be doing the scoops?
That's what I was wondering. I don't know how I would be positioned in the deal, but I like me as the son.
Okay.
With the scoops, like 2 scoops of raisins.
That'd be good. I'd buy that box.
Yeah.
All right, another feature we have is called Over the Top Rope. We go to the person that we previously interviewed, and they have a question they'll give to you.
Oh.
So, last episode 21, we had Owen Knight. And his question for you is, what is your guilty pleasure 90s R&B track?
Was this specifically for me, or we just knew it was going to the next person?
It was for you
I
specifically.
specifically said this is for Savannah, and I'll give you a hint. I said, okay, time out. What's yours? And he said, Weak by SWV.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So,
And it's my favorite 90s R&B
90s
track.
R&B, guilty pleasure.
The 90s were so good. Man, I'm so bad about on-the-spot questions. Maybe some TLC. Like,
Okay.
I liked the Crazy Sexy Cool album. It was good. I'll go with Waterfalls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pick wrong.
I'm gonna follow it up. Who's your favorite TLC member?
No.
This was a question I was gonna ask Darius a long time ago, and I never did. So, gotta pick one.
Oh, this is so hard. I don't know if you understand. I think when I was younger, I really liked. I liked all 3 of them. You can't do this to me. I know when I was younger, I loved Left Eye because she was the not outspoken, but she was the kind of off the wall one.
Right.
Chili was more mild, and T-Boz was not super brash, but like, you know, I got their back. I will go with Left Eye.
Good.
All right.
I don't like that you put me in that.
We like it when we stump
Yeah, we like
folks.
that.
We feel like we're asking good questions when that happens.
Yes. All right, here's our feature called the Hot Tag. Basically, it's a little larger than the name association, but not super long, drawn out. I like to refer to it as a Twitter answer, 120 characters or 140 characers or less.
So just like
So just
a
when it calls
one-word or two-word association?
It could
Yeah.
be more than that.
Or 10.
But if that's what hits you, so if I said, well, you mentioned The Rock earlier, if I said The Rock, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Oh, yeah. Eyebrow.
Eyebrow. Good enough.
But it can be more than that. You
can expand on it if you
yeah.
want to.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
so Joe's
Ready?
gonna call some out to you.
All right, first one up is somebody I just mentioned, Darius Lockhart.
Oh, man. I feel like one word or phrase doesn't encompass Darius.
You can, like he said,
Twitter answer.
Twitter style.
I want to give like determined to Darius. He's not okay with just being like the usual person his age, like being like basic and into what everyone else is doing. Like, he definitely wants to be his own person.
He's very mature for sure.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. All right, number 2, James Drake. You called him Uncle Drake one time when I was talking about him.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of kids at high spots call him Unc. That has to be like ultimate badass.
Yeah.
James Drake, yeah, ultimate badass.
Okay. All right, number 3, Billy Brash.
Another dude that moves maybe like he shouldn't for his height. You know what I mean? 6'4" luchador. That's what I'm gonna go for.
Yeah. How about Kiera Hogan?
I feel like I'm just gonna use everyone's monikers now. Girl on Fire, of course.
Okay. Montana Black. Don't say Monster.
Oh man, I was gonna say Monster. Montana Black. Oh, I really am tempted to want to say like Freight Train at a show last week called him Mountain Black.
Mountain?
No. Huge monster with a lot of heart though. I had these monster tons of heart.
Okay. Let me ask you something that we didn't touch on earlier. We should have followed up. What was your major in college?
Psychology.
Okay.
So yeah, I have a BA in psychology and my minor's in English.
Oh, wow. So that should be good for promos and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, and as far as like the English part of it, I was super into creative writing. So that, I think that plays into
Absolutely.
that as well.
Absolutely. I'll introduce the next feature. It's called 10 Count. And these are kind of random questions that we can ask anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And Nate is going to ask you the first 5.
All right. So your dream match, dead and alive.
Man. Dream match. Okay, of girls like
For you.
for me, yeah.
Who'd you like
Dream
to
match
wrestle?
on the current scene for like a while now has been Thunder Rosa. I love her. La Rosa Negra and Deonna Purrazzo. Like those 3, I want to wrestle them any day. Going back to childhood Lita, like imagine Lita like that would make me like little kid inside of me die, but in a good way. Like that'd be awesome. Or like, and I know she's wrestling more now at Melina Perez. Like I just love her. She's a sweetheart. Like I would love to wrestle her.
Anybody dead?
There
aren't as many females like
Yeah, but you know what we usually get? We usually get Eddie Guerrero.
Yes, of course, Eddie. I mentioned him earlier. Man, that would be, I think, like the ultimate challenge would be Eddie,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Eddie.
Okay, good answer. That's a popular one. So have you played any other sports?
So I actually was talking about this the other day. Before I got into wrestling, I wasn't like too super into other sports. Like growing up, I would try things but never stick with them.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I was a little kid, I did karate, but I didn't like make it past white belt. Like I just was into it and then I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And in middle school, I joined the volleyball team. I was like into it and then really quickly wasn't. So I didn't make it past like the end of the season. Just a lot of sports of like trying things, but I don't really like these things. So I think everyone, like, they see me like, did you play basketball in high school? Right. And I'm like, no, actually I didn't. But thank you. And like people now when they're like, oh yeah, you look really athletic. I was like, when I started, not coordinated at all, not athletic at all. So I always take that as like a compliment. But no, wasn't super into sports coming up.
Okay. Now this is a fun question because of all the options you can have there. But what's your go-to cookout order?
Okay. Cookout, maybe one of my favorite post-show meals.
Oh, okay.
Definitely not the healthiest, so I've scaled back on that, over the years. Especially because I'm so tempted to get a milkshake when I do eat there. My favorite milkshake is, okay, so it used to be the Reese's milkshake and the cheesecake milkshake mixed together, so like a Reese's cheesecake. As I've gotten older, it's too sweet for me. I can't handle it, and that's sad. But then, like, now I love the strawberry and the cheesecake mixed.
Okay.
That's my favorite. What I love, so I'm really into sauces, so I like the chicken tenders with honey mustard. It's my favorite.
Okay. What about your sides?
Fries, definitely, and hush puppies.
Okay.
So the probably the worst things that I could get on the menu. All of the fried things and all the potatoes.
That's what makes it good, though.
Yes.
So. Who was the GOAT? Give me male and female.
Of all time?
Yes.
You got it.
Oh my gosh. You're hurting me. Okay, so he wasn't in wrestling like super long compared to like other people. I will always hold The Rock super high. And I know a lot of people's answers are gonna be like Ric Flair and Macho Man. I didn't come up during those times. Like obviously I can watch them now and appreciate everything they do. And like I just love The Rock because he was like the total package. He could talk. He had the character. He looked super athletic. And he was around for like really like solidly working all the time. What, like 6 years, and then he came back and did like other things for a while. But just like a lot of impact. I feel like he was a household name like really quick.
Yeah.
But obviously I respect all the other guys that came before him.
Well, he's the definition of a charismatic athlete. So
Yes.
yes. So that's as good as it gets. How about a female?
Oh, that one's tougher. If I'm going back to like my previous like why I started watching wrestling, like Lita and Trish, but I like strongly believe neither one of them would have been as great without the other. Like I think they played well with each other. Obviously, I love and respect like Sensational Sherry. She was great, and all the girls that came before them. I think it's hard to pick of all time.
Yeah.
But there are certain girls that hold like a more special spot in my heart. Like I love Jazz. She was like, oh my gosh, like just badass black girl kicking everybody around the ring. Like I love her too.
That's good. And what's your first car?
Oh, my first car was a 96 Jeep Cherokee, and I actually thought about it the other day because I saw one that was the same color. Maybe like a newer model, but yeah, that was the one I had first. It was my mom's, and she let me have it, and I had to finish paying it off. And then I currently have a 2009 Mustang. I think I am 6 payments away from having it paid off, so I'm super excited about that. Yes, I can't wait. So that'll be great.
All right, number 6 on the 10 count. Who are your road trip partners?
Road trip partners usually, especially like locally, it's a lot of the high spots guys that I train with. So like Montana Black, Ian Maxwell,
right.
Darius Lockhart, the gifted one. Yeah. He's a little tough on road trips sometimes.
How's that?
He's just so full of energy, and he's like a giant kid. Like, I know he's having fun and he's just having a good time, but sometimes like, oh, you need to sit down somewhere. Like, and maybe they're just my age too, because I am that much older than some of the other people that are there. But I love them. Those guys are like my brothers, like Movie Mike. I love them. And then I like traveling with a lot of the high spots crew too. So when we go vend, at tables up north, like for like Northeast Wrestling, the rest of the high spots crew did that this weekend. But I do like traveling, with like Maureen, Caleb, and them, and Jake. Someone I wish I traveled more with, Harlem Bravado. Yes. Just because he's such a fun person to ride with.
Okay.
him, and then I want to get on the road more with like James Drake and Anthony Henry. They're always everywhere, but I feel like I always have something going on every time. They're like, hey, we have an open seat in the car. And I'm like, I have this other commitment. But I'm trying to get on the road with like those guys more often.
Okay, all right. Number 7, what is one thing you'd like to see change in the pro wrestling business? Nate and I call this our genie in a bottle question. If you could just snap your fingers and make something happen.
It's a tough question. Something I would change?
Yes.
I think so many things have happened in pro wrestling over the years. It's hard to think about. Because definitely it's way more different now with like social media. Certain things aren't as kayfabe as they used to be. Maybe that's what I would change. Just more of the legitimacy.
Right.
Pro wrestling.
Okay. All right. Number 8, pick a superpower.
Super strength. Yes.
Okay. All right. Number 9, tell us about your road trip playlist. We touched on some 90s stuff earlier, but what do you like to listen to?
So I do like a lot of 90s hip hop, even like early 2000s hip hop, like Ludacris, Nelly. That easily is on like a lot of my YouTube playlists. But when I'm in the car, it's just me. I'll hook up my phone, and I actually don't have a lot of stuff downloaded on my phone already, but that's a lot of like The Weeknd and Rihanna. And when I'm on the trip with guys, they're always like, oh man, this stuff is so slow. Like, you have to listen to it right now. I'm like, it's The Weeknd, you guys. But yeah, definitely, like I said, a lot of Nelly, Ludacris, a lot of those like late 90s, early 2000s guys. I just love, like, I can't get away. And I like a lot of like newer stuff too. But I don't know. I hear a lot of it on the radio, so it gets overplayed more, and I just like to go back to the stuff I was listening to when I was younger.
I agree with that. Number 10 on the 10 count, our final question. We call this the envy question. Our last guest, as we mentioned, was Owen Knight. If you could take one thing from Owen Knight and make it yours, what would it be? And this is all-encompassing.
His tenacity. Yes. He's definitely like cocky, but still like fierce. Like when he goes out there and wrestles, like he has a good balance of that. So if I could find a nice balance of that, that'd be great too.
That's a good compliment. All right, and that wraps up the interview for the most part. So it's time
Those
to
are all your questions.
It's time to plug your stuff. And then you got to get busy here. You're going to be wanted. Hey, before we do that though, we're at Augusta, the minicon for Augusta, and tell us, aren't you a comic book character?
Yes.
Tell us about that real quick.
So the comic book by Julian Velasquez and his partner that does the inking. I'm in a comic book. The comic book name is Bounty Hunter Beauty. I believe they're on their 2nd volume. My character's name is Angel Face. I got that name from Fight Club because I love that movie. So it's kind of like a pun though. Like she's not like a good character. She's like a villain. So it's like irony, but yeah. And then she's was mentioned a little bit in the 2nd volume. She's gonna be more heavily in the 3rd one. So if anyone would like to check that out, definitely. I believe it's definitely gonna be out there on the tables today. But again, yeah, Augusta Minicon. I'm wrestling later today. Super excited about that. It's Ashton Starr. Let's see. Tomorrow I will be at OSCW to defend my title.
We won't have this all put out and produced.
Oh no!
But that's why we need for you to plug your social media so they can keep up with future dates.
Yeah, so I do post my schedule on my social medias. Twitter is Savannah Evans NV. On Facebook, it's Savannah Evs. Like, not a full last name, but just EVS. Same thing on Instagram. So follow me wherever, anywhere you can find me. My schedules are posted there. And yeah, thank you guys.
All right, Nate.
All right. We can be found at facebook.com/suplexesmics. Twitter is at suplexesmics. Instagram at suplexesmics. Our YouTube channel where all those videos are is at tinyurl.com/suplexesmics. Suplexesmics. So yeah, like, subscribe, comment, Submit questions.
Any questions? Tell us who else you want to see on the show. It took almost a year to get you here.
But I made it.
We're so glad to have you.
Definitely.
And that's it. Episode 22.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.